There's a lot of things happening, even just in the past 24 hours, to try to get accountability and to try to make things right after what happened on January 6th. But one of the most unnerving parts of all of this is the fact that the effort to try to track down the people who stormed the Capitol that day appears to be led in part by journalists and random civilian internet sleuths doing this in their spare time, finding some of the people accused of some of the worst things themselves, because our nation's top law enforcement agencies haven't gotten around to it, even with all the help they are getting from those journalists and those amateurs. As inspiring as it might be about this kind of journalism and those amateurs and their detective work, it's not actually how this is supposed to go. Joining us now is HuffPost senior justice reporter Ryan Riley, whose reporting on this has just been remarkable over these last few weeks. Ryan, it's nice to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
In terms of the disappointment about the FBI not finding these people faster than you did, and not finding these people once you've even published for public-facing reporting about them, how do you view that, the disconnect between the FBI apparently seeking these people and then not going out and getting them once you and your colleagues and some intrepid amateurs have been able to find them?
You know, I've covered the Bureau for a long time, and I think one thing that I'm constantly reminding myself of within these past couple of months is that, you know, it's a Bureau that's made up of normal people and citizens. And as much as it has this sort of pop culture idea of it being this sort of really great crime-fighting force, which it is, you know, certainly be the most respected law enforcement organization in the United States, but it still is, you know, made of humans, and it's this giant bureaucracy, and it doesn't have necessarily the technological, you know, capabilities that even just amateurs can do on their own outside. If you just think about the logistics of this, for example, you're imagining a lot of this is happening via email, right? They have somewhat of an internal system, you know, sort of an IM system, and communicate within the Bureau. But it's not, you know, what you can sort of do with these hashtags and just organizing it. And I mean, if you just look at the scope of this, it's enormous. I mean, we're talking about literally hundreds of thousands of tips to sort through. And how do you classify that information, and what sort of buckets does it go in, and what sort of ones do you leave out and put behind, and which ones do you concentrate on and say, this is something that we really need to look at quickly? Because, you know, even just as an example of when the tips that we've got and trying to sort through those, we've had to figure out, okay, which ones are we going to say we really need to focus on this, and which ones are we going to have to leave by the wayside? And the FBI has to sort of do the same thing and identify the people who had a lot of violence, or the people who are easiest to, you know, grab. So you sort of have these two buckets at once, and you have to sort of figure out what path they're going to go down. But, you know, I think it is really frustrating for these citizen sleuths who've put in a ton of work and, you know, have just been looking at this every day, to be able to say, okay, well, I gave this tip a month ago and I haven't heard anything back yet. That's frustrating. You know, it sort of feels like that idea if you threw something down a well and never heard about it again. Or it feels like, you know, you put in a job application and never heard back, and you're just sort of sitting around waiting. Well, you know, I've identified this person. What's happening? What's going on behind the scenes? But because of the FBI protocols, it makes them difficult for them to communicate with the public about what exactly is happening.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.